You are with Dr. Tammie Harris with Mindset to Millions. Yes, yes, yes. And we're going to have a magnificent time tonight. I am so excited to always have you on my platform. Oh my goodness, Mega Source Entertainment. We are in over 20 plus countries, 400,000 plus listeners, and we are honored that you choose to come on our platform. And almost every night during the week with other radio personalities, we have so many things happening. So if you're on the app, I want you to keep tuning in, checking us out. We are doing some marvelous things. And with this platform tonight, oh my goodness, get ready to pivot to your new next. I want to introduce someone very near and dear to my heart. Oh my goodness, Dr. Velkeeta Redding. I met this queen in South Africa. How about that? I didn't know her in North Carolina. I didn't know her in Georgia. I didn't know her in DC. I met her in the missions fields of South Africa, Johannesburg to be exact. Dr. Velkeeta, welcome to Mindset to Millions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tammie. I am so excited to be here, and I'm so glad for that meeting in South Africa.
Yes, yes, yes. Such a beautiful soul. I'm going to talk about you a little bit. And of course, I want you to take it over and tell them more about yourself. But what I love about you, you are a woman of excellence. You're anointed, you're appointed, and you've done so many wonderful things. And just to know you is to love you, and your spirit is always on point. And that moment I met you in Africa, I knew that we were going to become friends and remain friends. But I want to tell you, she is an award-winning journalist, a media professional, entrepreneur. I mean, she's done so many things, so much. What's the word I want to use? Go into earth. She is go into earth. She's a professional who truly has made a significant difference and contributions in the media and the business world. I can go on and on. An award-winning journalist, public relation practitioner, strategic communicator, communications. She has won widespread acclaim. People know her, like people know her name. I'm so happy to know her name, but people know her name. She's a best-selling author. I mean, just so much I can share. And she recently did something so massive in the state of Georgia. And so, Dr. Velkeeta, come on and tell the people a little bit about yourself, some things that I missed. I want them to know who they have on this platform on tonight.
Well, thank you, Dr. Tammie. I am so grateful that I have this opportunity to share who I am, and I so appreciate you inviting me to be here tonight. You've said a whole lot. I'm not sure how much more I can add, but I will tell you that because I've done so many things and I've had so many wonderful experiences, I am grateful for all of them. Um, I had to condense it even for myself. So I consider myself to be a jammer, a JAMMER, a journalist, an author, a media marketing entrepreneur, reformer, because I love to see things better than when I meet with them. So that's how I consider myself. I'm those things. But at the end of the day, I just want to ensure that people's voices are heard and that all of the opportunities available to us all, we're able to meet with them and do our best, our greatest work. So that, in a nutshell, is who I am. I have traveled the world. I lived in China for 4 years of my life. Um, I have traveled to 65 countries, and I'm going to add two more to that very, very soon because I'm traveling to some new countries that I've never been to coming up in the fall. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see more of this beautiful world that God has made. If you
Mm.
haven't gotten your passport, get it so you can start traveling as well. But I'm just excited. I'm excited about this time in my life. I am having a great time. Just really
Mm.
having a great time.
I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you've done so much, but you're so humble. You don't talk a lot about what you've done over time. And, recently I saw you on the news, I saw you getting an award, at this park, well, I don't, let me say this. I know it was in Heritage Park, I think in South Atlanta. Talk a little bit about that before we jump into our subject on tonight. I truly want people to know who we have with us in Dr. Velkeeta. Talk a little bit about your recent accomplishment.
Well, I am an artist, and I don't want to jump ahead and talk about pivoting, but I am a fairly new artist. And most recently, I painted my very first mural. It is a huge mural, it is 8 feet by 40 feet, and it took 2 months to actually paint it.
Mm,
I am a digital artist, that's how I define my work. But that caused me to pivot outside of even that box. So that was a pivot outside of the digital world into like paint. I didn't know I could do it. I designed it all digitally and transformed what I designed onto the wall. It was the first
mm,
time that this has ever been done. So I made a little bit of history actually doing it. And the wall is called the Wall of Kindness, and it is in Heritage Park, south of Atlanta, in a place called McDonough. And it is a tribute to a longtime Parks and Recreation director. His name is Tim Coley.
mm,
My way and my idea of coming up with a way that people could spread kindness. So just below this 8 foot by 40 foot wall are receptacles where you can actually leave messages to people, random strangers. Have a great
mm.
day. Be great at what you are, be great at who you are. Whatever kindness message you want to leave, you're able to do so at this wall. So I was very proud of the work. And I hope it is not my last one. So if anybody has any murals they want me to paint, call me up.
I love this. And she's going to be leaving her information for sure so that you all can reach out. And I want to welcome some folks that I see in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. People can be doing a many of things, but you decided to hang out. Good to see Renee. Music's in the building. Michelle, yes, yes. Ronnie, so good to see people are jumping in. Looks like if I mess it up, don't get me. Um, Lavita, she says hello, Dr. Velkeeta. So people are jumping in. People are excited to be here with us on tonight, and we don't count it lightly. So we're jumping into our subject. Let's get this party started. Let's get it started right. I said that Dr. Velkeeta and I, we met in Johannesburg, South Africa. We did not go down together. I did not know her before getting in South Africa, but I met her. She was on the same missions trip that I was on, and her spirit was right. And she just started talking about some of the things that she was doing. And I was like, oh my God, this woman is somebody that I have to get to know. And so her whole theme around pivot. Dr. Velkeeta, talk to us a little bit about when you heard the word pivot, because tonight we're talking about mindset to millions, a mindset to pivot to your next. Talk to us a little bit about when the word pivot come across, what comes to your mind?
Well, almost immediately. Well, before I get to that, I have to tell you, I had to call up Siri, and I said, Siri, how far is Atlanta, Georgia from Johannesburg, South Africa? So when Siri told me that, that it was 8,500 miles away. I was like, so you had to take two little Black girls from different places and bring them together on
Mm,
soil not their own, just so that
mm,
they could have this moment in time. And the interesting thing is that all of
mm,
this part of our story, it was already written before the world was
mm,
formed. Imagine that.
mm,
So that to me is exciting in and of itself. But I feel like my entire life has been a series of pivots.
mhm,
And they aren't just surface pivots. I actually had to tap in, be in tune, and know when to actually pivot.
mm,
And so when I hear the word, for me, on a more simple level, it just means that you need to turn and go another way.
mm,
This way has already experienced its first roadblock. So you just
mm,
need to turn and go another way. And so as I was thinking about it, and thinking about all of the things that I've gone through in my life, all of the experiences that I've had, and I went straight to a kitchen in
mm,
Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I was interviewing Dr. Maya Angelou. I can still pass out today in my mind thinking about that opportunity to sit in her kitchen and talk to her about her journey. And she said to me, I wouldn't take anything for my journey now.
mm,
So when I think about all of the pivots that I've made in my life, I first had to be in tune. I had to be in tune in order to know that it was time to shift, which is also what it means to me. It was time to shift and to do something different.
mm,
And so I thought about Maya Angelou because she was talking about how she thought everything she was doing was going to lead up to her becoming a lawyer. She didn't necessarily become a lawyer, but she was writing her way through all of the experiences that she had, and somebody recognized that she had the gift. And she said that she felt like she brought something to the table that was different, but still gave people a voice. And so when I think about the pivots that I made, and I was thinking about it so deeply that I came up with an acronym. So the
mm,
P in pivot for me meant that I paused at some point in my life. I
mm,
paused in order to just sit still and to know that it was time to shift, that it was time to turn, that
mm,
it was time to do something different because I had walked into essentially a roadblock, for lack of other words. It was just a roadblock, and it was time to turn and do something differently. So during that time when I found myself pausing, you just don't know what to do. You wonder what's next. You would love to just peer into the future and know what's next. I didn't. So the best thing to do in those times is to quiet yourself.
mm,
Quiet yourself. Just pause and be still. Because you can sometimes pivot too soon. And then there are other times when you can pivot and it's too late. So
mm,
there's that window of opportunity, that sweet spot where, you're being led to something, that you are. You just can't quite put your finger on it, but you know that in this pause, in this time, if I'm still enough, if I'm quiet enough, I can listen and I can hear for that what's next. And so that leads me to, unless you have another question, the I.
Dr. Velkeeta, before you go to the I want to refreshen the folks that are coming in to let them know that we are with the wonderful one and only Dr. Velkeeta, who is actually talking to us tonight about a mindset to pivot. She's a journalist, she's an acclaimed author, she's an artist, and she has pivoted in so many ways in her life. And so I just want to refresh and let people know who are coming in. I'm seeing different people. See, Janice coming in. So glad to have you here. Other people are jumping in the chat. So glad to see you on tonight. And so you talked about the P. Come on, take it over. Take it back.
Just
I'm
when you
taking notes, by the way.
wonderful. So the I, just when you thought I, me, my, is not even about that. It is about that internet, not the internet, but the internet, the INNER net, going within, having
Mm,
some serious inflection as you reflect on where you've been and where you'd like to go. So you got to go inside and do the work. And for me, when I go inside, I'm talking to God. I'm a Christian. That's what I believe. And so when I go inside, I'm talking to God. What would you
mm,
have me do? God, order my steps. And so that serious inflection is a time when you've already silenced yourself. You've already quieted yourself with that pause, that P. But you just want to go inside and understand what's going on there. How you equip yourself for your next has everything to do with how you've inflected, fixed what's wrong, worked on what you know you can work on in order to prepare yourself for that next. So inflection is a big part of pivoting, so that
mhm,
you know when you take that turn, you know that you know that you know that you heard what you heard
mm.
while you were in there, in that inner net. While you were in there, this is what I heard. So I know I'm going to come out of this on the other side,
Mhm.
emerging victorious. So yes, that I is important. And
Mm.
it's not I, me, my.
Come on, come on. Yes, I see our other sister because we graduated from the same school and we're so excited about that. Trinity is in the house international. Yes, we see
Yes,
Dr. Chris Scott. She is in the building. She's saying, great job, Queens. See, Lisa says, yes, a mindset to pivot. Yes, and Michelle says she loves that. The internet, INNER net. This is good. Come on. Ooh, we just warming up. Oh my God, we need more than an hour, but we're gonna work with what we got.
we'll
Okay,
work
we
with
got to
it.
the I. We're listening.
Work with it. So then I always say, I heard a bishop who is actually my son's godfather. He would always say, if you can see it, you can be it.
Mm,
So the V in pivot is to visualize. Put it in your mind's eye where you see yourself next. Visualize. Put it there. See yourself there and make your way to it. God will
mm,
order your steps. That's certain. He's going to order your steps. Sometimes we, pivot and go the wrong way, but thank goodness he can put us back on track and get us to the place where he ultimately wants us to be. But to visualize it, to see it,
mm,
to get it in your mind's eye, to get it in your heart, visualize it, see it, be it, do it.
mm,
That's where the V comes in. And the V is very powerful because you can sometimes manifest your future just by putting it here and seeing yourself doing it.
mhm.
I've done that. I've actually done
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
I was six
Yes.
years old and I don't really even know if I knew what a journalist was, but I saw myself doing what I saw Walter Cronkite doing. And I may have dated myself with that because some people may not even know who he is, but he was a journalist I felt like I could emulate. I didn't see anybody who looked like me at the time. But I
Mhm,
just knew that I wanted to be somewhere on a television screen, sharing the news with people in the viewing audience. It didn't necessarily happen that way because I was a newspaper journalist. I started out in broadcast, but shifted into newspapers, and that's where I spent the majority of my career. But I saw myself actually reporting,
mm,
telling the stories, allowing people to take from what they heard from me as the reporter, put out all of the facts. Now you make the determination, you make up your mind about what it is I reported on. So I saw
mm.
myself actually doing that. And I
This
also saw
is
myself, in the world, going all
mhm.
over the world. I had big dreams, didn't know how I was going to get all over the world. But the funny thing is that we tend to make our plans and think we got solid stuff going on. God is good about saying, hold up, I got something else better, or hold
Ooh.
up, that's not the way you should be traveling. And so
Mhm.
you have to also be ready to, back away. May not
Mhm.
be the time, doesn't mean that the time isn't coming, but you visualize something and eventually it's going to come to pass. It's going to manifest itself if you believe wholeheartedly. And I had a whole lot of belief,
Mm,
whole lot of
mm,
belief
mm, mm, mm.
that I'd make it as a journalist.
Dr. Velkeeta, I think what I'm loving so much about what you're sharing is you are giving us real life stories and examples of how pivoting, even before we knew this word. I just started hearing this word a couple of years ago, right? It's been around forever, but I don't think we saw it in the way that we're seeing it now. But you're giving us life examples of what that looked like for you. And I know in 2020, that was a pivot for a lot of people. That
Yeah.
changed the way we did business. It changed the way we interact with people. I remember I had been selling real estate at that time for lots of years. This coming July would be 17 years for me. And during that time in 2020, I made a decision. What do I have to lose? And I pivot and decided to start a real estate firm out of nowhere. And it's like people around me was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I love what you're saying, the V to visualize and to have the vision, because I actually saw myself opening the buildings, opening the offices, bringing in the staff, bringing in the real estate agents. And I'll never forget, a good friend of mine asked me, how in the world do you have an open house for a real estate company, a ribbon cutting, and you have 100 people to show up in the year of COVID? And I said, only God could have done that, because I saw it before it happened. So I'm so glad tonight we're talking about pivoting. You're breaking it down, what it means. And Coach Rich, our fearless leader and the owner of this wonderful Mega Source Entertainment, he said, this is wow. He's seen your work, Dr. Velkeeta. He said he was in Heritage Park on yesterday. He lives in, I might say it wrong, McDoing, but one wonderful work. He walked the trail often. Congratulations. Who would have known that
I
the
know.
owner of this fine radio station would know your work, live close to the area? I mean, go figure that our steps have been ordered by God.
Yes, absolutely.
Back to you, Queen.
I tell you, I could go on and on and on, but I just think about all of the pivots that I've gone through. Yeah, even with pivoting with the art. I was the reason I even went to graphic design school to learn it in the first place was because I was an international magazine publisher, and my one of my issues got held hostage by a graphic designer.
Mm.
And I said, this will be the last time this will ever happen to me. So in 2014, I went back to school. I said, this cannot be rocket science. So I went
Mm.
back to school, learned graphic design. Illustration was the worst part of my program. When I tell you I had to pivot, I was a stick figure kind of girl. I could draw you a nice stick figure, and that was all you were going to get. But somehow, some way, fast forward 5 years ago, I have this image in my mind, which goes back to visualizing things. I had this image in my mind, and I wanted to put it out for Women's History Month
Mm.
and International Women's Day, which happens in March. And I wanted to put this image that I had out in my mind. And I stood at my kitchen counter and I worked on it all night. I'm telling you, the sun came up on me. And I posted it on social media, and it went, a lot of people would probably say, oh, that's nothing. But it went baby viral because thousands of people saw this image and they started to share it and they started to put it on different pages and different platforms. And this is the image. This was my very first image that I
Beautiful.
put out there. And in my inflection, in my internet, I hear God say, do it for the next 30 days. I was like, who are you talking to, Lord? He said, do it for the next 30 days. And I was like, but I'm not that good. You know how we can talk ourselves out of things? Well,
Mhm.
that happens when you're pivoting. You can talk yourself out of things, or you can,
Mm.
you know, take the positive and high road and talk yourself into something.
Mm.
So I said, if God said it, that settles it, and I'm going to do it. And so I set out to actually do it for the next 30 days, and it just started to gain momentum. So I went from this to what you see behind me.
Mhm.
I don't know which way I'm pointing, but over there. Yeah,
Wow.
over there, over here. So it's been, I've developed, my skill has gotten better. But had I not been obedient to that first nudge in my spirit to try to put what I was seeing in my head onto paper,
Mm.
never would have happened. I never would have done the art that's in Heritage Park. And anything that may come in the future, it may not have made it had I not been obedient.
Wow. Well, you know what? I got my notes. I know other people are taking notes too. You gave us that V. I think you owe us two more letters.
I do. And the next one is to open yourself. With that O, open yourself to the possibilities. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Mhm.
There are a lot of possibilities if you're just in tune enough to recognize them and to take advantage of them and to act. So the
Mm.
O is for opening yourself to the possibilities. There are new ideas, new perspectives, all kinds of things that you can expose yourself to while
Mm.
you're pivoting to your next. All kinds of things that are out there, but you have to be open to them. Because if you set yourself inside of a box, inside of the box is where you'll stay. So for me, I've always been open. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's been being open so much that it kind of felt detrimental because I'm like, with that openness comes some level of expectation. So
Mhm.
I'm opening myself and I'm expecting things to happen, but sometimes those things don't happen, especially if I'm thinking that they're going to happen in my own time.
Mm.
Sometimes we're not necessarily in control of our next.
Mm.
But if you position yourself, and in that time when you're positioning yourself, you're also preparing when the opportunity comes, which can also be an O. When the opportunity comes, you're ready.
Ooh. Yes, yes, yes. Did you all hear what she said? Position yourself. And it's a thing that we say, I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. But if we position ourselves, we will be prepared for the opportunity to pivot. And it's a mindset to pivot. That's what Dr. Velkita is discussing and sharing on tonight as a journalist, entrepreneur, artist. She's a missionary. I met her again for those who are just getting in. I met her in the fields of Johannesburg, South Africa. We both, live in the States, but did not know each other. And she's breaking down the mindset to pivot and the word pivot for her, what it means. And now we're at the T. I got so many notes over here. I can't wait to hear about this T, Dr. Velkita.
Well, the T is simple, and I got a couple of them for you. One is to turn. You're at that roadblock. And when you're pivoting, for me, it just simply means to turn and go another way. And then it can also mean transformation, have a journey of self-discovery and self-reflection while you're transforming into the next thing that you shall become, because you will become exactly what you have here and exactly what you have here. You definitely will become those things. And I think about Michelle Obama's book, Becoming.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about becoming, but in actuality, for me, she was pivoting. Who wakes up and all of a sudden you're the first African American first lady? Talking about a pivot. That's pivoting from everything you knew to become what you have become.
Mm.
So transforming and turning and being in tune enough to discern that this is it. This is the way, and I will walk into it. So that's pretty much what I think of when I think of that T. Being able to turn, make the right turn too, because you can make the wrong turn and be on a path of destruction, or being on a path that you're not supposed to be on. Because we all know, well, I shouldn't say we all know, but the blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow.
Come on.
So the wrong turn could mean that you're on the wrong path, and you can feel it. You actually feel, you know when it's right. You also know when it's wrong. So being transformed in the process helps you to pivot better.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this, because I've seen pivots that have happened in my life and other people's lives that I know, that initially it wasn't something that they were jumping up and down about, that they were so excited about, because it took courage. It took faith, it took determination, and it made it look like what the world would think pivoting means. And so sometimes I think people are afraid to transform, to go into the inner, to listen, to hear, and to make the choice to pivot. Would you, or what would you say to that person that says, I want to pivot, I believe it's a God idea, because I often talk about a good idea versus a God idea. I think you want the God idea, not just the good idea. But they're saying, I believe it's a God idea, but when I took chances before, when I felt like I pivoted before, it didn't work out the way that I thought it would. So I'm afraid. How can they pivot while being afraid, Dr. Velkeeta?
Do it afraid. That's all I can say. Do it afraid. I have approached a lot, like going to China. Yes, I went there kicking and screaming and came back the same way, because I got over my fear of even going in the first place. It was the unknown, it was the unexpected. I didn't expect that I would get over there and really feel great about being there, because I was resisting the assignment. I really was. I was resisting the assignment. And when I got to the place where I decided that, you know what, God had already told me not to resist the assignment, He removed the fear. That's all it was, fear of the unknown. And sometimes you have to go forward doing it afraid, knowing that God is going to be a safety net for you. And I heard somebody say, fear is simply false evidence appearing real. So if it is false evidence appearing real, then what you actually feel is the trick of the enemy. Tricking you out of what could be the absolute best time, best experience in your whole entire life. We can't operate in fear. Fear will paralyze you such that you won't even see
Mhm.
things. You'll always stay in that safe space
Mhm.
inside of the box where you never experience all that God actually has for you. So you have to do it afraid. I
Mhm.
remember when I decided after 20 some odd years being a journalist working for other companies, I decided I wanted to go out on my own. Well, when I decided to go out on my own, I only had $4,000 to do that. So there I was with $4,000. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm getting ready to publish this magazine. And yeah, I was met with and faced with so many challenges, but I made it and the magazine was successful. And I published it for many years, even from China while I lived over there.
Wow.
So, yes, I was afraid to start it because, you can have imposter syndrome where you feel
Mhm.
like, well, who do you think you are to publish an international magazine? And the magazine was called Proud. And Proud was an acronym. You'll probably figure out I'm the acronym queen.
I love it.
Proud was an acronym for people relying on unconditional diversity. Y'all remember that name because it's coming back. But anyway, Proud was a magazine that I launched so that I got tired of hearing people say, well, we can't find qualified African Americans for particular positions. So it was
Mhm.
for me to highlight African Americans who were doing some phenomenal things.
Wow.
So that diversity magazine shined a light on African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanic Americans. And I published it for many years before the market decided for me that it was time
Mhm.
to pivot.
Come on.
I had pushed it, beyond
Mhm.
what was ordained. It's time that it was
Mhm.
ordained for it to be out in the marketplace. It probably would have flopped.
Mm.
But God, in essence, had a
Mhm.
set time for it to be published and a set time for it to go to bed, to go lay down.
See, this is good. This is good right here. I want to stop right here. I want to really touch on this. Sometimes people think pivoting is about starting and transition and being transformed only and transformational. But pivoting, I love what Dr. Velkeeta did, y'all. I want you all to hear what she said. She knew when it was time to start it, and then she knew when it was time to make a shift and end it. And I think about my middle son, Aaron. I remember when he started doing social media marketing for realtors. The real estate market was so hot. Everybody was buying Google ads. The interest rates were super low. And in that business, he made so much money, reached so many realtors, just did an exceptional thing. This is Gabby's father, my granddaughter Gabby, that I always talk about. When the shift began to shift, he said to me, he says, Mama T, he says, there's something happening in the real estate world. There's a shift. He says, so I'm looking at other business opportunities. So when the shift take place, I'm not looking around wondering what happened. And so the more he began to talk about the shift, of course, I own a real estate company. I think we up to about 25 real estate agents. We saw the shift. We saw the shift firsthand. And so we pivoted. We pivoted when we started the real estate firm and got that first office. And then I think altogether collectively, we've had about 4 offices since then. But as the real estate market shifted and changed and moved and the interest rates went up, we closed that first office that we had. Okay. We went back. We decided to do shared space. That was a pivot. I had to get over myself and thinking, oh my God, what does this mean if I'm going to not have this office anymore and I'm going to be sharing space and things of that nature? I want to tell somebody out there who needs to take a pivot and it does not look like a good idea based on what people think or what people say. I need for you to listen to Dr. Velkeeta on tonight because she's showing you how you can move to your next now, how you can pivot in your mindset. And it doesn't always mean startup. It also means sometimes you have to close things down. That same son of ours, in the recent months, opened up a massive laundromat business that is taking off. I never even saw that for him, but he's an entrepreneur. It's a laundromat business. It's not real estate. It's not social media marketing. You gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them, and you gotta know when to let them go. This is so good. Let's check the chat out. Oh my goodness. Bridget is in the building. She says, this is amazing. Renee S says she's loving this. Janice saying, you are dropping some gems, Dr. Velkeeta. So people are getting so much out of what's being said on tonight. Coach Rich, he's happy to be here. He's happy to have you here. Michelle said, woo, this is powerful. Resisting the assignment. Now, I'm telling you, I want you to go back on that one because that was absolutely powerful. Janet says the same, so powerful. Kathy says, so good to see Kathy up here on tonight. People relying on unconditional diversity. Proud. She's proud. This is so good. Proud, the Proud magazine. People relying on unconditional diversity. Your magazine, Kathy's quoting that. Wei Dean says, AP, you are doing great things. Yes, in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. He says, hallelujah. Shira, he says, hallelujah. Glory be to God. May God, our Father, continue to bless the both of your lives. So people are getting so much out of this on tonight. I want to go back, though. I want to go back to resisting the assignment. That was powerful. I need for you to go deeper because I hear the people in the back saying, I've resisted so much out of fear, out of anxiety, out of what people think. I'm sure as a journalist, a world acclaimed journalist, and you travel all these different places, people thought you lost your mind when you decided that you was going to shift and even becoming an artist. And now you're Dr. Velkeeta. Talk to us a little bit about that resisting the assignment and what are the cons to resisting the assignment?
Well, I can't talk about resisting the assignment without talking about how it came about in those exact words. Earlier we talked about the internet inflecting, going inside and listening, stilling ourselves, being quiet, so that in all of the noise, should I do this? Should I do that? The other, whatever the case may be, quieting yourself and hearing from God. My husband came home and said, what do you think about moving to China? I said, not thinking about moving to China. I was moving to China. So he had this opportunity for this huge assignment. And every time he'd ask me, it was a non-conversation in my mind because of fear. Fear actually shut me down to the point where no, I am not going to China. Are there any Black people there? That kind of thing. It was just, and our son was really small then. He was like 2 years old. And I was riding to church. My mom is a pastor, and I was riding to church with her from Savannah to Manning, South Carolina. And Savannah is where I'm from, by the way. But we were riding along, and I heard God say to me, just as clear as I'm speaking to you right now, as I was riding down I-95 north, going to South Carolina. And he said, do not resist the assignment. So I came back and I told my husband, okay, I'm in. So we went on a look-see trip. And on that look-see trip, were away for a week, just looking to see if China was going to be for us. Because in my mind, it was for him, not for us.
Mhm.
But anyway, it was one of the best experiences because when we resist the assignment, just always keep in the back of your mind, you never know where it's going to lead first and foremost. But aside from that, God just wants your yes. He actually wanted my yes because I
Mhm.
did not know what would come next. And by far, it was one of the best experiences ever. And that's why I say I went there kicking and screaming and I came back the same way. So when you resist, you can sometimes miss out. And understand too, just to go back, understand too that to pivot does not mean that you failed. It just means that you've hopscotched to your next.
Mm.
You've skipped over, when you're playing hopscotch and you throw
Mm.
that stone and you gotta hop over that stone, that's where the pivot takes place. You can keep going because if you're doing the whole hopscotch game,
Come on.
you skip over that stone and you still keep going to the next squares. You're gonna still keep hopping.
Mm.
Um, so it doesn't mean failure. It just means that you're turning and you're going another way. It may not be,
Mhm.
and usually the disappointment comes because it's not exactly how we defined it. So if you can
How
get
we
over
saw it.
yourself long enough to understand that
Mm.
God is in control,
Mhm.
getting to your next is easy.
Mm.
It's easy if you've decided, you've made up in your mind that I'm just going to pause. I'm just going to let go. I'm just going to, give the steering wheel to God and let Him take control.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have it hard. Don't even think for 1 minute that I'm sitting here perfect because I am not. I have pivoted
Mm.
so many times,
Mm.
just to
So
get
many
to the next.
times.
Yeah, and I'm
Mm.
so glad I did. So,
And I'm glad you did because if you had not, then we wouldn't be here together,
yeah.
sharing and blessing the people. Again, I want to thank the people who are in the chat. I want to thank the people who are listening in. I see some of our other radio personalities on tonight as well. I think I saw Obey. She has a show on during the week also. So good to see her. Yes, so many people are joining in. Michelle said obedience is the key. And we have Collaborator maybe says, how do you keep faith in yourself while pivoting? That I think that's great. How do you keep, I'm gonna get you to address that. How do you keep faith in yourself while pivoting? And then Felicia says, she's getting so many confirmations here on tonight. This is mere confirmations. So you talked a little bit about, keeping the faith, but how do you keep faith in yourself when you're pivoting?
Well, you got to have a circle because I tell you, I don't think I could have done it on my own. My mom is a big cheerleader. My husband is a big cheerleader. And just when I want to sit in a little bit of negativity, get up. What you doing? Don't even think about it. So it's good to have people who pour into your life just as you pour into theirs.
Mhm.
And I feel like you know, during those times when I was talking myself out of things, just feeling, this is just not happening fast
Mm.
enough. It's not quick at all.
Mhm.
It's good to surround yourself with people who can pour into your life, keep you on that path. And it's
Mhm.
also, for me, good to be a student of the word.
Yeah.
Faith without works
Yeah.
is dead. When you work
Mhm.
the plan works.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
there's times when what you say isn't what God is saying.
Mhm.
So, in those times I've learned to just go with the flow, be still and
Mhm.
know.
And no, I
All
love
about
that. That is so good. That is so good. And I think too, I was in a coaching session with a group today, some students, and we were talking about confidence, and we was talking about knowing who we are and understanding that we belong at the table. And if they don't allow us to be at the table, we create our own tables. But that's through Christ. It might be a person that says, well, I'm not a believer, I don't believe in a higher power. What I want to say to anybody out there that's listening, you are enough. So many times we're comparing ourselves to other people. We're looking at other people highlight reels is what I call them. But we don't know the price of their oil. Dr. Vakita, anointed, appointed, got a good spirit. We sat in that restaurant in South Africa those mornings and broke bread, having brunch, and we were excited about breakfast and coffee and all that good stuff. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't even know as much as I know now about her, the journey and the process. We don't know everything about you, but look over your shoulder. You've already went through a lot. You've already had the answer to life. You have what it takes. Have faith in yourself and believe that God, your higher power, have brought you to this place for such a time as this. And God is with her and she will not fail. So I definitely wanted to say that. Oh my goodness, we're down to the hour. We're down to the hour. Where has the time went? Where has the time went? Oh my goodness. So of course, people are in the chat just going on and on. Someone said, do you think pivoting can sometimes be a form of aborting God's assignment? That's a good question, Dr. Velkeita.
That is a good question. I mean, sometimes you can avoid God's assignment and almost immediately that you've been disobedient, you're out of order, off the path, and out of line. There, done that, got the t-shirt and the war scars. Oh my goodness.
And the DVD, but I broke the DVD because I said, I'm done. I like what Keisha says, Keisha maybe Johnson says, pivoting is change, which is hard, but it's necessary. I love that. It's necessary. Listen, lady, I already know people want your book. They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. What do you have going on? Talk to us a little bit. If we want to reach out to you and know what's going on in your world, how can we do that?
First and foremost, everybody who's listening can get the pivot framework, everything that I've discussed here tonight. And you can get that if you just email me to pivotforpurpose@gmail.com. Pivotforpurpose@gmail.com. And there's purpose in all of this. When you pivot, you land on purpose. That's a nice place to land. If you're on the path, following the purpose that God has set for you, it's a great place to be. So if you want the pivot framework, please email me and I'll get that to you. It's pivotforpurpose@gmail.com.
Now, is that the letter for, or is that the word for?
The word for, FOR, pivot for, FOR, purpose@gmail.com.
Okay.
And then if you want to know anything about what I do in the publishing world, you can check out my website as statussymbolmedia.com. And then my artwork, it is on a website, Faceries, FACERIES. My husband came up with that name because most of my work are women's faces. So FACERIES.com, faceries.com, statussymbolmedia.com, and on all social platforms, it's at Velkeita, VELEKEYTA.
Love this. So we have another one of our alumni, Dr. Tish is in the building. She's texting me. Dr. Tish, she was in South Africa with us. Yes. Oh my, and Dr. Chris, she was in South Africa with us. So all of our South Africa queens are in the building on tonight. Dr. Tish says, hot scotch over it and pivot to get to your neck. She said, this is juicy good. Not just good, but juicy good. Oh my
Good.
goodness. Oh my
Where you want
goodness.
to
Ooh.
land? Right place.
Yes, and Melinda texted me, said, "This is so good." So people are being blessed, woman of God, by what you have shared and said so far. We have about 6 more minutes. Let me look in the chat, and I don't want to miss any questions. I don't want to miss any questions. Um, Yes, I'm learning a lot in spite of all of the business conversations. This is so good, so good, so good. So I have a question. I think my last question for tonight, I have so many. In listening Keita, and your excitement and your joy and your decision to keep pivoting, to keep trusting, to keep moving forward. And you are a missionary, a journalist, an international magazine publisher. You publish books. You do so many different things. Tell us a little bit about your self-care because you're doing a lot.
You know what? I can stand at my counter. This is interesting too. I can stand at my counter and just draw all day. And for me, that's self care. And then there are times when I just want to shop, 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 shop. That's self care for me. People have different ways of unwinding and winding down, but for me, that's what I do to escape it
Mhm.
all. And I'm taking the time when I'm there. Because at one point when all of this art stuff started happening and God just basically caused what was already in me to blossom with the art, I felt like if I moved from the counter, it was going to go away.
Ooh.
Especially during those first 30 days. I was like, oh my goodness, this right here was probably a fluke.
Mhm. Mhm.
But so when I'm
Oh.
I'm basically doing things that I love, I make jewelry. I learned how to make jewelry in China, and sometimes I'll steal away to my studio and make jewelry.
Mm. Mm.
So I mean,
Wow.
my self care is not like um, other people may want to
Mhm.
go to spas or whatever, but I find my joy in creativity. I'm a creative
Mm.
being and I'm always thinking, and there is not a single day that doesn't go by that God does not download something in my spirit. And at one point, I asked him, well, what is this all about? I can't do all of this stuff.
Mm.
But he let me know in that time that he wanted me to have choices. So I
Mm.
was like, oh, so Lord, I can pray eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and I can pick any of this and you'll make it go. And that's pretty much what has happened.
Wow.
And it's not something that I brag about or
Right.
anything. It's just what God has done for me. He gives me an idea every single day. So I said,
Mm.
well, maybe I could call myself an idea master.
I love it.
But I tell you, if
See.
I had to leave you with a final thought, it would be that in all of this pivoting business,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually reinventing yourself and listening to God to do what He thinks is next and best for you. But you focus, follow the one
Mm.
course until successful.
Mm.
Then He will say, it is finished.
It is
Go to
finished.
your next.
Woo!
It's finished. Go to your next.
That's a mic drop right there. I'm going to tell you what, that's a mic drop, and they're just grateful. Renee, thank you for joining. I also said thank you. Lena said awesome show. Ronnie said great show, ladies. I make it my business, Dr. Velkeita, to make comments about the folks that are in our chat. No one has to join our show. No one have to listen in. And I'm just so grateful that they tuned in because they got so much knowledge from you on tonight. Michelle said, great conversation. Thank you for your wisdom, your knowledge. Sophia says, thanks for the wisdom. Yes, Janice said, I heard that the future is female, and it changed my world. It's beautiful to see us represented. Oh, yes, in these spaces. Yes, yes, yes. We have an artist in the house. We have a international traveler, a world traveler. How many countries you said you've been to, lady?
I'm up to 65 and I'm going to be at 67 really soon. I'm a continent hopper, an unofficial continent hopper.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Keisha says options are great. Got to have them. I love it. I'm telling you, I have been blessed tonight to have Dr. Velkeeta with us, a woman of faith, a woman who has traveled, who has knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Give them one more time for those who did not capture. Give them one more time your contact information.
Okay, so I hope you will write to me and I can send you this pivot framework. And it is pivot for FOR, pivot for purpose at gmail.com.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, we're at the top of the hour, and I am blessed as always. I call it Mindset to Millions. My tag is I live to tell the story. Had the opportunity to be a daughter of sharecroppers, and I've seen the hand of God move in my life in a way that has shifted my mindset in a way that I could not have done it on my own. So, my role, my goal, my assignment every Monday night is to bring wealth of knowledge, information, and people that can help move you to a mindset for millions. Join us, Mega Source Entertainment. We have personalities that are on throughout the entire week. We are a movement, a African American company making an impact in the earth. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the top Monday night, 8 p.m. Be in the building. God bless you. Thank you.